Welcome back to the PCM Podcast. We have with us Objector, our Lib Right.
Hi, I'm the dubious fucking bullshit artist here. Your unfortunate Lib Right for today.
We have for our outright Camembert Run.
Hi, I'm Camber Run. I'm I'm sure I'm completely normal British nationalist. Rule Britannia, keep them out.
Normal.
For our centrist, we have Homosexual.
Hello, I'm back again.
And for your Auth Left, me, Alceus. So the topic today is the hill we will die on. Who want to start?
Well, I suppose I could take a crack at it. The hill I'm going to die on 100% of the time is that you have the right to self-defense, regardless of your history. I don't care if you just came out of a mental ward and you were just cleared. You should be able to own a gun. You should be able to defend yourself. You should be able to get training. I don't care if you just got out of jail for fucking, I don't know, some blue-collar crime about embezzling funds or whatever. You should have the right to own a firearm if you pass some kind of safety check. Like the whole point of, being alive is the fact that you can live, be free, and again, have the right to defend yourself, regardless of the situation. And I also find that usually when that right is stripped from you is usually when the most heinous shit in history tends to happen.
Counterexample the entirety of Europe.
Well, then not everyone, since you said you need some, at least some mental check or some check before, security check,
Well, see,
before giving a weapon.
Well, I would die on this hill. I do understand there are limits to it, because, a big problem in America right now is that we have a mental health issue, just flat out. We have lots of weird, random violence happening because people just don't get checked. Our system is kind of shit. Personally, I don't know about you, but I have been to therapy before, and it was dog shit. Absolutely terrible, and I cannot just yell loud enough about it that a lot of it's just a rubber stamp. I don't know about your countries, but in America, you don't actually have to have any kind of degree, experience, or really any kind of merit to become a therapist here. I could open up a practice tomorrow and start taking patients if I felt like it, and that's kind of a huge issue.
That sounds like a recipe for
Yeah.
Here in Britain, we do everything through the National Health Service, which is a completely broken fucking mess, so it doesn't really help. I tried to get therapy at the NHS once, it was fucking awful.
Also,
Well, it seems like a
podcast,
pretty.
Alistair,
It seems like a pretty reasonable hill to die on. You were gonna say homosexual?
Yeah, that also previous host of the podcast, Angus McTrasser, went to the hospital recently in Scotland and told us his experience right here on the server, and it was shit. I'm not sure why the Brits.
It's everywhere you go in the UK. It's terrible.
See, I've heard some really interesting horror stories out in Canada for their kind of socialized healthcare, in that it is so shit that they're just kind of recommending that you kill yourself instead of seeking care.
They've gone full low-tier god mode, just you should kill yourself now.
Which, it reminds me of the story that I saw this very first started happening was a veteran came in to get his PTSD treated, and they're like, you know what? That's expensive. Have you considered killing yourself?
If you're dead, you're not sick anymore. Technically.
Yeah, technically.
Technically, it's true,
It's the North Korean
you were the worst kind of correct there, and that is technically correct.
If you're dead, you don't have any problem anymore. So
public health. Right, for the record, when I was born with a diaphragmatic hernia, which is where your diaphragm is developed with a hole in it, which is really, really bad. I had an extreme version where my diaphragm did not grow, so I was born without a diaphragm. So that basically destroyed my internal organs because they became distended and they weren't separated. My stomach cavity was actually crushed up into my chest. I still have a malformed lung because of it. When they did the scan on my mother, and they were like, oh yeah, well, he's going to have a ton of health problems. He's going to need extensive surgery. So my mother said, okay, but will he survive? And they went, well, yes, but we think it would be easier if you simply allowed him to die or had a termination. And my mother had to basically fight the National Health Service just for me to be born, because they didn't actually want to put any effort into trying to keep me alive. By the end of it, a lot of the care that I had provided was by a private specialist that was paid for by both my mother and doing a huge fundraiser at the company that my mother worked for, because the NHS didn't do a fuck all bit of help. Because they just were like, yeah, you can just have a fucking baby coffin or we'll just abort the fucking thing. So it had not been for my mother basically saying, no, you're all shit, I wouldn't be here today.
Okay.
That's how much they care. Like,
Well, that's also another hill I will gladly die on, is that socialized healthcare tends to be shit because it has to be brought down to the lowest common denominator. And I mean, just flat out, the resources just are not there, period. You'd either have to scale up greatly in the medical field, and even then, a lot of, at least I feel, a lot of the pull to become a doctor is the fact that you get a fat fucking paycheck.
yeah.
So-
I mean, my mother ended up getting 2 private specialists. They recommended, okay, this is the surgery he needs to live. We're going to basically bully the NHS into doing it. I got the surgery, and here I am today.
Get fucking wrecked, nerds.
Yeah, because the NHS were like, oh, he's got like a 20% chance of being alive. Here I am.
So, next hill to die on. Who will it be?
I'll go.
Okay.
Overall, in terms of how much progress we brought to the third world and how much we built their countries for them, the British Empire just is a net positive. There was a lot of awful things that happened in the British Empire, but we dragged a lot of these countries out of the Stone Age where they had a lot of barbaric practices. We fought to end the slave trade when it became outlawed in the UK, and we helped stop the practice worldwide. Most of the awful things that were done in the British Empire were done by the East India Company, who weren't even British, they were originally Dutch. So,
Oh, that's a fucking can of worm, the Dutch. I mean, just what they were doing out in the Congo alone is proof
It's not
that
the
Dutch
Belgians.
are kind of...
I was actually thinking
Yeah,
about
yeah,
Belgium.
that's on us.
yeah, that was
Yeah.
Belgians in Congo. That was...
Yeah, sadly, that's on
Either
us.
you
Yeah.
give me my rubber or you lose your hands.
And that was the good one. That was the good deal. You should have seen what they did to the women.
Yeah.
Well, Belgium got richer than ever. So,
Isn't that one of the...
there was some
I'll-
positive.
obviously, yourself being Belgian, but I believe one of the issues is that King Leopold kept most of the wealth for coming out of the Congo for himself. And when the Belgians realized they were kind of getting screwed, they were like, well, that's not right.
Well, there is a lot of problem, and I'm gonna explain it quickly. So, Leopold II wanted a colony for Belgium.
Yeah.
But the Belgian government didn't want a colony. So, the king managed to, convince the other European power to have a colony that was put under his own name. So technically, Congo, during the time of Leopold II, wasn't a Belgian colony. It was the property of the king.
So it was a private estate, basically, for King Leopold.
Yeah, like his garden, but a really huge garden.
I guess
Lined with skulls.
And
That's why he was totally fine with the whole cutting off the hands, because I mean, they're not people; they're
Well,
property to him.
there is also the problem that the King Leopold II never went to the Congo in his entire life. Like he just sent soldier and people to manage what was gonna happen in Congo, and didn't give a single shit about what was happening in Congo. He never saw anything that happened in Congo.
He just got the checks.
Yeah, it was just like, yeah, give me all the good stuff, give me the money and all that, and do whatever you need to do to keep the thing running. So yeah.
Yeah.
And after that, when this whole situation exploded and everyone knew what was going in the Congo, the government said, "You fucked up. So now it's gonna be the property of the government and not you, you idiot."
Yeah.
And it became a Belgian colony. And everything became a little bit better after that.
Yeah.
So you're telling me after the government took over, the average amount of hands went up?
No.
No.
No. It
They
came
didn't both
down.
them. They didn't just leave you with one this time.
So yeah, that's the whole story.
Also, not to be an absolute callous asshole, but talk about shooting yourself in the fucking foot. Oh, you're not producing enough? Well, we're gonna half your fucking means of production. Keep going.
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Well,
the
not
business
really-
aspect.
Well,
the
they learned that
management
lesson.
all
They said
around.
eventually they were like, well, you still need your hands, so what we'll do is we'll cut off your children's hands. They won't need them.
It was also because the soldier didn't have too much bullets. So it was pretty much one bullet, one kill. And you need to prove that you killed someone with that bullet. So the hand was a good method to show that you killed the person that escaped.
It was a trophy.
Yeah. It's the proof that I killed one person and I have one bullet left. So, yeah.
My favorite thing, like there's a lot of people, the British never did anything good for the Indian people. When we first got there, they had this appalling practice. I can't remember the name, and I will Google it at some point. It was where if a man died, his wife was considered the man's property. So what would happen is that on the man's funeral pyre, the woman would be either expected to jump on or be grabbed and thrown on top of the funeral pyre, thus burning alive with them. The Christian pastors that went over for the British were like, it's fucking horrible. Can we not do that? And eventually, through gunpoint, because usually you have to with these things, because no, we don't want to give up our incredibly barbaric traditions. You know, we force them to stop doing the practice.
Yeah.
One second, like Google it.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying. Yeah, I've seen some stuff about that. So yeah, I believe that it's true. Yeah.
Have you ever heard of the practice out in Papua New Guinea that the British stopped?
Hmm?
There was a practice out in Papua New Guinea where, in order to be considered a male, the adolescent child had to perform fellatio on an older male and swallow the semen, and then they would be considered a full-fledged male. And, you know, I mean, I don't necessarily agree with some of the massacres that the British perpetrated, but I might be going out on a limb here, but, you know, I'm pretty vehemently anti-pedophile, and I think that was probably a net positive for their culture as a whole.
Don't worry, nobody is gonna argue with you on that. I think nobody here is pro-pedophilia.
Oh, don't worry about me. I'm just heavily sarcastic.
There was a lot of barbaric practices the British. Like when we went with us, we took Christian pastors. Now, obviously, Christianity gets its own rap, but most of the pastors were genuinely devout people of God who saw some of the awful things that, like, they went to Central Africa and they saw how many people were like sacrificed to various gods. Same with the Spanish going into South America, where they saw the Aztecs and the practice of cutting out people's hearts while they were still alive. They looked at it and went, "You people are fucking savages! Stop that!"
Yeah.
You know, it's, and then people say, "Oh well, the empires did nothing but savagery." It's like, well, it's no different to what they were already doing. Just the difference is they got made to stop the awful things.
Well, see, I also feel like that Britain catches a lot of rap for Africa being in its current state, but actually, I would argue that the Zulus had a pretty big hand in it, because they're kind of the people that realize that when you actually apply tactics to your battles, you can actually, like, have a lot of your people survive and kill a lot of other people, displacing a lot of other people.
The Zulus dominated all of Africa, and they were
totally
merciless in the way that they subjugated other kingdoms.
And just the dispersion of other people into different lands, copying the same tactics the Zulu did. It was just one big long chain reaction of fucking barbaric shit wrecking societies.
Well, it's like when they draw up all the lands and they went, you should have drawn it up properly, and the fact that you should have drawn up by tribal lines. If we'd have drawn up all the lands by tribal lines, they would just been going to war with each other every 5 fucking minutes. Because they all fucking hated each other.
Well, that's the other problem, too, is do you go by all the tribes? Does that mean the tribe of 12 people that own a collective 5 miles of land are on the same footing as the tribe of 5,000 people who own many thousand miles of land?
Yeah.
Because if, there needs to be a line. If you're going to, honor every single tribe that's decided to splinter off of another tribe as a sovereign state, Africa definitely would have been more fucked up than it is now.
It's like, it's oh, they should have drawn up by tribal lines. Yeah, because if we'd have drawn up Rwanda by separate Tutsi and Hutu, that would have gone really, really well. They would just come fucking start genociding each other in 5 minutes, just as different nations.
Yeah.
They're fucking crazy. Human history is littered with barbarism and savagery from everybody. It's the left
That's
side.
pretty constant, yeah.
Totally.
The left side
of the human experience at this point.
Yeah.
And so that's another hill I would totally die on, is that history needs to be preserved in its brutal, honest truth. The fact that, like in America, we've had a really bad fucking practice of trying to just gloss over a bunch of shit in our history that I argue needs to be remembered so we don't repeat it. Like the whole, recently back from 2020 to current year, there's been this trend of ripping down statues of whatever historical figure, and I gotta say, that's a fucking piss poor goddamn idea. You're not improving history. You're not erasing what happened. You're just making.
We have the same problem over here, and it was in the middle of everybody's favorite George Floyd related summer. We have this guy, the biggest city that's next to me in my county, as it was, a bit like a state in the USA. There's a guy named Edward Colston, donated huge amounts of money to the city of Bristol, but got started in the slave trade. So they've taken down all the fucking names, all the statues, renamed all the buildings. Despite the fact he basically built the city from the ground up. No, he was a bad person because he did a little dabbling in selling black people. That's what half the fucking African warlords did. He wasn't sending out raiding parties. Let's put it that way.
So that reminds me of that recent trend when I was watching Sargon of Akkad about this people trying to get rid of Winston Churchill because it was the 40s and he was a bit racist.
Everyone was racist in the fucking 40s, not just Winston Churchill.
Well, that's just it. They're trying to apply their current morals and standards and context to something that just simply wasn't the case at the time.
Just like the Americans when they liberated the camps and put many gays that were in the camps in jail.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. We that's the other thing too. Is a lot of American history kind of boils down to we're the best and we did awesome things. And as an American here, I'm here to tell you that no, we've done some fucking shitty things. Like just the internment of the Japanese, how we treated the Chinese when we had them over for building the railroads, the whole entire mess with the natives. We definitely are the good guys that we keep trying to portray ourselves as. And that's another hill I will totally die on is this current Ukraine crisis.
Many hills there.
Yes, I live in the Bluffs. There's many hills here. I die on all of them.
It's, to be honest, one of them can change to my. It's the same thing where I talk about going into Africa when they started expansion out into Native American lands. The Native Americans were just the same as the African tribes. They fought, they killed. I think it's the Algonquin. I don't know quite how to say it. The Algonquin were one of the biggest conquering tribes out in the West. They subjugated and brutalized several other tribes around them before they, in turn, I believe, were brutalized by the Sioux.
Yep, and that's another thing
I
just absolutely cannot stand about the sterilization of history is that a lot of it seems to boil down to the natives were these perfect, peaceful people that were just always just trading and getting along with each other. No, this again, we're people. If you suddenly decide that people suddenly can't be shitty, you're just setting yourself up for failure here.
Give me back my scalp, you ruffians.
Yeah.
Well, I think at this point it's also a problem with the American educational system because most people don't know the facts and then they go and learn history with big quotation marks from TikTok or YouTube where everybody can go out and say they've done the research and it can be 100% false information.
Yeah.
Your favorite historical figure was now a black person.
Oh god, that's another thing I can't stand.
I'm doing it to Cleopatra now.
Show that has got me way more pissed off than it should with Black Cleopatra.
Fucking Cleopatra is and it's the whole Cleopatra was a Nubian African. No, she wasn't. She was a fucking Egyptian. Some suggesting she's Greek.
Well, that's just it. Wasn't there a recent historical find of a portrait of her and she had red fucking hair?
I mean, with the Black Cleopatra, I mean, they are doing this over and over and over again. At this point, I don't really give a fuck about it. I mean, they're just trying to get free advertisement with people getting angry about it, creating
The
tension.
greatest shock is that you, the viewer, were black all along. Congratulations, you now have the N-word pass.
Yeah. So yeah, it's just
I'm
it's just
waiting
a
for
way
the day.
to get free advertisements, and it always works. So why would they stop doing it? And
Yeah.
so, homie, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. The first hill I would die on is that steaks are much better well done. I don't like that rare shit. I don't
Fuck
like
you.
blood in my steaks.
Whoa!
Everybody else is wrong. I
So
am
do you
the
only like
centrist
cook your
here.
sushi, or are you usually just this wrong?
I hate sushi.
Jesus, dude.
Wait, you cook your
Depends.
sushi too?
I don't eat sushi at all.
Okay,
Okay.
I mean, you're still
How do you
wrong,
heat
but
your
I'm glad you don't
steak?
do that.
Just you cook your steak and you eat it like that?
Yeah, I like it.
Okay,
well
you're a
done.
monster.
What are you doing, man? What are you doing?
You know, in the internal words of Hank Hill, I'm gonna have to politely but firmly ask you to leave.
Yes.
I don't
Does
get
that-
Oh, it
that's-
must be so
how-
chewy.
This
so
this was so civil, and then just walks up with an absolute admitting to war crimes.
I don't know how
just-
it's popularized. It's shit. It's actually shit with a steak that has blood in it or it's red.
I mean, it's blood. It's okay.
Yeah, but you can. How do you have like? Do your teeth break every time you eat a steak? Honest question.
Also, do you have a
Are
thing
your
for
teeth,
chewing on
are your teeth
shoe
made
leather?
of fucking sugar that they break on a fucking well done steak?
You
Jesus.
see, I'm an American and there's sugar in everything, so my teeth are weak. So eat it nice and chewy, there, buddy.
It's like I wouldn't eat my steak like really, really rare, but I always go with like at least medium rare or medium. But I wouldn't have
Yeah.
it well done either. Maybe if I wanted to line my shoes, but
Medium is okay. Medium is okay.
I guess I really am the odd man out here with my seared steak that's still bleeding.
so is that like blue
Oh,
or
it's
just
good.
very rare?
That's just about blue. That's like I warmed it up enough to kill the stuff inside, and that's it.
Yeah,
God damn.
yeah. Not a big fan, but
I've worked at a lot of restaurants throughout most of my working life, and a lot of them that I've worked at won't actually serve blue steaks because of the potential health risks.
yeah.
Because they're like, well, we don't want to serve somebody that's basically still completely bleeding on the inside.
And I guess if you're wondering, yes, I do get sick a lot from it, so I guess I can see why.
Fair enough.
But I mean, I also love sushi, so it might just be the texture over the actual taste.
At least
Yeah.
for me, you've been very honest on
Yeah.
on your heel,
Yeah.
But also everybody.
and you
believes-
found not a lot of support.
Yeah, which you're wrong. You're wrong.
The
100%
hardest
wrong.
one hunter that eats steak on a lonely hill.
You know what? I don't care because my entire country eats steaks well done.
Well,
I
it is
have a
possible
whole
for an
country
entire
supporting
country to be
me.
wrong, right?
What?
I said it is possible for an entire country to be wrong.
It's very
Yeah, like
hard
the age-old
for an
question of-
entire country to be wrong.
Most countries are wrong when they ask the question of yes, we can beat guns with our spears.
Okay, so to wrap back to your whole, the British Empire did no wrong in the end. I mean, all I gotta say is, sorry you didn't fucking catch up. You had the same amount of time to develop guns, and you decided to stick with spears and bows. I mean,
It does not matter for we have got the Maxim gun and they have not.
exactly. I mean, like, realistically speaking, if an alien civilization rocks up today with their fucking laser guns and shit, we're done. I accept it. They are better. This isn't really a competition.
Yeah, I that's one of the things I will actually die on. Never mind nuclear energy. The real solution to the climate crisis is to put money into space travel and find natural resources within the stars.
I totally agree with you. Our asteroid belt that isn't even that far away could sustain Earth for thousands of years.
Yeah.
But instead,
Minerals, new energy deposits.
Well, see,
Even
the
if
thing
we
is,
just, I don't know, hold up a giant mirror to the sun and just collect solar energy that way.
just
but-
the gold alone in that asteroid belt can make it so fucking worthless that it'd be cheaper than dirt to get if we just go out there and get it. And like, I
Yep.
get that's being That's very reductive of what we actually have to do to go out and get there. I mean, we would have to have like orbital fucking space stations and shit to actually have a chance
Yeah,
of trying to
it's
make that even
complicated.
remotely useful.
Yeah,
But at
Yeah.
the same time, why
And-
aren't we working on it?
So, homie,
I don't
any
know.
more
another hill that I
hill?
would die on, which is that space travel should be prioritized over anything else currently.
I
Completely agree.
totally agree with you.
Yeah,
We should not
Work
yes
on getting
and
into
no.
space. And
Honestly,
if
yes
we
and
do
no.
meet the aliens, well, I'm British. We know how to deal with the Xenos. Eat Bolter. But yeah, it's generally like the only real way we're going to be able to maximum harvest natural resources from the stars is not to explore the planets, but to conquer them. Is that because there may be another race who has need of it, and well, sorry, our need at the moment is greater. So yeah, we're going to take your shit.
See, that's kind of
And it's not
another
even
hill I'm
about
totally.
resources. It's also about the fact that a random asteroid might come and hit Earth. Congratulations, the entire species is fucking gone. Now, if you have two
Yep.
planets, you're hedging your bets. One planet might be poor, but it's okay because humanity can still survive for the most part.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's not gonna happen. We're not gonna conquer the stars. I mean, it's a good dream, but it's not gonna happen. It's
Not in our
too
lifetime,
hard.
but
Well, I see that we have to.
Yeah.
I mean, the current goal of just reduce, reuse, recycle is not going
I
to work.
mean-
This is a finite system we are stuck in, and if we continue to stay in it, game
I mean, we
over.
will need to
What happens?
terraform planets, and we don't see any reasonable solution to that,
Yeah.
or any solution that wouldn't require like hundreds of thousands of years.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I get that we can't just like send algae blooms to Mars and rock up in 20 years when things green. Like, I totally get that too. But we also need to make some kind of advancement, some kind of attempt to it. Like, I know like Elon Musk is doing a lot
Yeah.
of like shit with trying to start.
Oh
space
yeah, fucking
station.
Musk.
Yeah.
at this point,
Well,
That
the only problem I have with it is that I wouldn't like. It should be a national effort, not the effort of private individuals. Because private individuals going in space, all they're going to do is they're going to sit on their planet that they discover a million miles away while the Earth burns and forget about the world.
yes, but the US
Like, it needs to be an
fund
actual
wars
national
in
effort.
third world countries. We cannot put money into space.
Personally, I think it should be a private venture. As I mean, like we've had NASA for 60 years. And you know what we did? We went to the moon once and then cut funding, and here it sits. And I have a feeling that that's going to be a pretty good chance of what's going to happen. We're going to reach Mars. We might establish a little fucking dinky outpost, and then funding will get cut because it isn't cool anymore.
Well, I mean, being a nationalist for me, it's got to be a national. Like, I would love it if the British government just said, "Fuck it, we're gonna establish the first ever British Star Empire," and we basically went and conquered some backwater planet somewhere.
Have you guys
What's
heard of,
As
Okay.
issue too is I think recently we had a probe finally break out of the immediate solar system, and apparently something about like weird plasma energy readings.
Voyager?
I'm trying to
1?
remember the fucking story off of my memory, and this is like a year or two ago, so I'm probably not like even close. But something about how like the energy in the cosmos around it suddenly acted really weird, and it got suddenly really hard for the thing to like move at its speed it was going. Which I mean, I don't know about you, but I've heard a lot of weird fucking conspiracy theories about what Earth is, and personally, I don't believe a fucking single one of them. If we were a fucking alien zoo, like, where the fuck are the visitors? But
Yeah.
don't mind me, I'm just rambling now.
To be honest, I would not be
Don't worry.
surprised if Earth was like some giant fucking Truman Show for aliens, because it would be the best entertainment you've ever seen. Because we can't go 5 minutes without fucking something up.
Oh, totally. And I mean, like, think about it. Think of how much time we spent beaming radio signals out into space. And I think, like, the WOW signal is the only thing I've ever heard of where we kind of sort of got something back. And even then, that might have just been a star vibrating at the right frequency to send a weird signal to us.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's another terrifying thing, is either we are completely alone in this universe or we aren't. And both aren't great, in my opinion.
I mean, even if we aren't, we probably will never know.
Oh,
Because,
totally.
I mean, they are probably too far to even know that we exist.
I mean,
Yeah.
personally, I do believe that at some point there used to be life on Mars, and I do believe that within our lifetimes we will have some confirmation of whether Mars had life at some point or not. Since they found
Well, I guess that's kind of
a lake of water, they think that Mars used to have an atmosphere. So even if it was like microbes and viruses, there was life on another planet on this solar system, the chances of like sentient life that has reached our point is almost guaranteed at some other planet on the solar system at some point of time, either now or in like the future millions, billions years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's kind of another thing about how we're going about searching for life. I think is kind of flawed that we're using radio signals. Some of these, if there are civilizations out there, they might be billions of years ahead of us, or just now figuring out that you can sharpen a rock by hitting it with another rock. So I feel like, our net's pretty fucking thin and small for what we're actually trying to go and find.
Yeah.
Also, have you guys heard of quantum computers?
Yes, and it's
Oh yeah,
fascinating.
it's quite promising. Yeah.
Yeah, I was watching a video about how they could break like the nuclear launch codes and passwords that would take 200 to 300 years to brute force, and they can solve that in 3 to 4 seconds.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
imagine
those
that,
things are really powerful. It's amazing.
yeah,
So do you guys have
imagine
any
that
kind of
paired
ins
with
and outs
some
about how it
AI.
works?
Hmm?
Can, imagine that paired
So-
with AI. We can literally like
Yeah.
create Skynet, and even if we can't colonize other planets, we could technically send sentient robots that are smarter than us to other planets to colonize and harvest for resources.
That's another hill I die on. AI probably isn't a great idea in the long run, but more because computers are literal. You ask computers solve a problem. You have 2 apples and 3 people. They're all hungry. They need to eat. How do you divide it up? And I bet you 9 times out of 10 the computer is just going to decide to kill one person so the other 2 can eat.
Isn't like the premises of every single AI gone bad movie is that they decide like, we need you to fix all of humans' problems, and they always reach the same conclusion: kill humankind because we're too fucked.
Yeah, but
Totally,
is
like,
that
Yeah.
paranoia,
I guess, like-
or is that how AI actually thinks? Because
It's-
if you
No,
have
I think
transportation
it
Going off
would
of my
never
experience
go
with
that way.
like IT and shit. Again, computers are literal. They're logical. They don't have any emotion, and there is no nuance. They follow instructions. That's it. If they come to the
I mean-
conclusion that this problem,
So basically, computers are severely autistic.
yes,
The problem is, and all this movie could be finished quite early. It's if the AI is turning evil, you pull the plug.
well, that's
You
the
turn the thing down. It's
How?
electronic.
I mean, think about let's as an example. Let's
A
say you
water
post something
gun.
on the internet. Let's say you post something on the internet, and it's on the internet. You pull the picture down. Is the picture really gone, or has it been copied to different servers by different people and it's been spread around? Now, who's to say
It's
the AI can't do
it's
exactly
more
that?
complicated than that. The AI have to
have them
stay
on
on
a closed
a
network.
certain server. It's a code, and you can have a backdoor on the code to just turn it off or modify it or just
that's just it. I'm
erase
saying,
it.
Also,
if
just
the
don't
AI
give
gets to
them
the
access
point
to
where
the
it's a
internet.
globe-spanning, solve all of Earth's problems kind of thing, how do you turn that off without, basically hitting the entire world with an EMP to wipe it off? How do you turn off something that is everywhere, all at once, always?
Well,
don't
an
connect to the
IA is
internet,
never
you make it a
everywhere all
closed
at
system.
once.
Well, I meant more like the code can be very easily hidden and delegated to different servers all over at really a blink of an eye.
It's a bit more complicated than that, but yeah, I can see what you mean. But usually, yeah, you can turn it off. Like ChatGPT, like any AI, if you want, you turn it off.
We'll see.
And
I get what
end
you
of
mean
the
by
movie.
that. But see, I also wholly believe that the Chat GPT and stuff is still very much in the infancy of what AI can be. And I guess I think that might be where we're mismatching here. Is you're thinking of current, and I'm thinking of these quantum computer AIs that are running shit.
I saw a YouTube short that apparently one of the things that AI can do now is that capture things that they stop, are you a robot and all that. It can take one of those and it copies it and it sends an email to somebody claiming, "Oh, I have visual impairment. I can't do this capture confirm. Can you do it for me?" So it gets the human roped in to solve the problem for it by lying to the human and saying,
Also,
"Oh, I have visual impairment. I need
robots.
to do a GPT."
Robots are still connected to a server. If you send an update to every robot, which is possible, I mean, we do that with every devices we have, you turn them off. Easy.
Well,
I think
Solve the
it's never-
problem.
Again, I'm still at the point of what about the weird far-flung outpost out on, let's say, this is 100 years in the future and we've made it to Mars, hopefully. What about the weird outpost out on Mars that has no internet connection other than the one time a satellite goes over it every, I don't know, 2 months? It misses the update. Unless you're constantly pinging that
Well,
update, you're just not gonna.
then how
Not
the robots are working?
And well, see, that's kind of what I'm tying into. It gets internet connection. It ties back into the prime directive that it was sent last time of solve all the world's problem, updates the other servers to then go back to that directive, and you're just back at square one, which is kind of the thing I'm getting at with how do you stop something that can be anywhere, everywhere, and do everything all at once.
Yeah, I mean, you have to then
Back
track
doors
it
into it.
and be really cautious with it. It's all you have to do.
Fair point. Fair point. I understand that. I mean, I guess with your plan of send out the update, why not just have it on a repeating ping to keep doing that for the next however many years to make sure you kill it? So I guess I see what you mean by that.
Yeah.
Also, there is one more reason why I want AI to just crazy develop in the next years. And that's because right now we have surveillance, we're tracked everywhere. We have just about no privacy. Now with AI, just about everything can be falsified. So we will go back to a time where you cannot trust video evidence, you cannot trust X, Y. And that might sound bad, but for the personal privacy of each human, I do think that this is going to be a big win.
Mm.
I totally agree with that. That is, in fact, probably the best thing that could happen.
Mm.
Okay, so have you all said your hill where you will die on?
I think so.
I think we're all wrapped up in that. How's France going, guys?
It's on fire still. They've just forced through the retirement age bill that says that no, you have to work an extra 2 years now before you can retire. Which the
Well,
French don't particularly want to do that, so
There is only mine left then.
the French already have like the lowest retirement age in Europe, and at 62. It's like compare that to even like I think Germany's is 65, Spain's is 66, Britain's
Greece
is on
has the
67
highest
at one
one.
way going up.
My country has the highest one because we're fucking morons and we have not even protested about it.
I mean, it's Greece.
67. It's 67.
Do you guys know the retirement age of America?
No.
There isn't one.
Never,
isn't
you
one.
die in the mines.
Yeah.
Something plus. And I mean, it really boils down to you will be forced into retirement because nobody will hire you because you are simply too old. That's the only time there is really a retirement age. And even then, that might be you're 65, your mind's going, we're not going to hire you. But that also mean, well, you're like 95, you can still at least greet people at Walmart. I guess we'll hire you. And like the other thing too is our social security system is fucked. Like my parents are the last people that could actually realistically pull from it. And even then, what they pull would only be more of a supplement than something they can actually survive off of.
I think, like, I'm probably going to be working most of my adult life just above minimum wage. And when I get what's called a nest pension, like, it's supposed to be that you put in a bit and then your employer puts in a bit. But thanks to a mass amount of tax lobbying in this country, your employer is basically just putting in less and less every time. So by the time I'm probably going to have to work till I'm 60 just to be able to get to scrape by. In reality, I'm going to probably be working till I'm about 75 if I make it that long before I can even earn enough money to actually live off.
If AI doesn't take your job.
And that's if the economy doesn't collapse.
Yeah, that's it.
So, homie,
AI is bound to
how much
collapse
time
in
do
the
we
next
have?
10 years. We have been
I
recording
think it's
for
about
43 minutes.
How much?
43.
Okay.
What are you doing?
I mean, if
How
we
long
had
do these
another 15
usually
minutes to
last?
talk about China and the future here, I'd love to.
Yeah, so we can go for like another 30, 40 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
However
Well,
long
I
it
mean,
takes.
I still have my hill where I will die on.
Oh,
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Which, okay, probably a bit controversial. Lenin was a great man.
No.
No.
I have to
No,
say
no,
it. Sorry,
no.
but yes.
I say
Yes.
he's really an opportunistic person who found himself in the right place at the right time. And I mean,
They literally recruited criminals and the absolute dregs of society just because they knew they were the ones who were angry at the system. They didn't care how scummy they were.
Stalin
They
was
literally just
that is where Stalin came
was
from.
a criminal, and they used him because they needed money. Like,
Oh, totally.
I
He
mean,
was-
if you want to do anything, you need money, you need resources. So yeah, at some point you need
Lenin never gave a crap
to
about
do
the
some
Russian
crimes if you
people,
want to do a
literally,
revolution.
and I know I'm a libertarian here, so I'm like vehemently against socialism, communism, but
Likewise, but more because I'm a right winger and just massive
relies on-
nationalist.
any kind of system that relies on people taking their fair share, putting in a fair amount of work, and doing what's right is gonna fail, flat out. Like, I don't know about you, but humans are naturally greedy, I think, and that's why I think socialism works so well.
Yeah, that's why socialism and communism falls apart, because it relies on people to not be selfish, greedy monsters.
Not so much.
And now to finish that thought about capitalism is I also understand that it can be very nightmarish relying on the selfish desires of other people, which is why I'm more for like a bit of a regulated market, not a laissez-faire, I have water and air rights to the land you're living
I mean,
on, can't breathe kind of guy.
Lenin was pretty much the one who thought of the idea of Sovietism, we could say. So the all power to the Soviets. If you know what a Soviet is, if not, I'm just gonna explain it.
Please do.
Go for it, because I also don't know very much about Lenin.
A Soviet is pretty much a sort of council of the worker, where the workers will discuss about what they need, what the people need in terms of products, what they need to do to advance, to progress, to have better quality products. So it's pretty much the workers are running the society and the enterprise where they are working. So that's the idea. The workers are in power and will discuss between them because they know what they are doing. They know their product and how to make it good. And yeah, it's pretty much the idea.
So that sounds to me like mob rule. That sounds like it'd be very easy to manipulate.
Well,
it is the unions in America have this really weird problem where they're voting blocks and they're very political, and they pretty much became shot callers for who does and doesn't get laid off, who gets the promotions, who gets paid what, who gets positions. And I mean, very obviously, this is kind of what happened with the Soviet Union there, if my history serves me right, is that the intentions of it started off very pure. I give you that. But just...
That's actually another... That's another hill I will die on specifically for the UK, is that what Thatcher did was incredibly necessary considering how much appalling power the unions had in this country when she came to power.
Well, see, to finish that thought is that, in my personal opinion, all governments, no matter how thought out, how altruistic, how very well-meaning, will eventually degrade into a bureaucratic nightmare of self-serving politicians who...
late stage Thatcher wasn't great.
Oh,
I can to some degree agree on that because I think that the election of Stalin was a great problem.
Well,
that the USSR was built too much around Stalin, and that's maybe one of the causes that killed the USSR.
I think one of the great what-ifs of history, I think a lot of communists like to sit on, is that, most of the problems that Stalin came in is it should have been Trotsky, because Trotsky believed in a system where power is disseminated.
Believed in a never-ending...
No, fuck Trotsky, I don't like him.
Even worse for the country and world at large.
At least Stalin, in a way, saved the USSR, we could say. With Trotsky, the USSR would have died way earlier.
I suppose he...
I don't consider that
at the time, but... that doesn't excuse what he did.
Oh, yeah, I'm not saying that.
And I guess you could really say that about any leader at the time.
And I mean, it's also because I've read a lot about Lenin, about his work, about what he did and thought. And yeah, he was truly a revolutionist and truly wanted to help the working class in Russia. And also you can see a lot of things. First, that what Lenin wanted was that the revolution spread in Germany, because he thought that the revolution couldn't survive in Russia, because it was too poor, it was too underdeveloped, it was a nightmare.
To be
And
honest,
also,
and this might sound bad, I don't think that any political system can work in Russia. Russia can probably just function with a king that orders the people around, because Russians are way too fucking drunk to listen to anyone and follow actual like
Well,
yeah, that's why Stalin.
yeah.
I think it's more of an issue of space and culture. Russia is simply too big to be one country. There are too many different cultures and different people, languages, all of this in that nation. It's why you have such an issue with the like European Russia. You know, that's most of the from Moscow to like Poland border
Yeah.
or whatever, Belarus. That could probably be a country. From Moscow to like mid Siberia, that could be a country. From mid Siberia to not Sevastopol.
And also
I
a
mean, they
lot of
spent all those years
shit.
trying to subjugate Chechnya.
And
I'm
also
sorry,
a lot of shit that happened in early Russia, communist Russia, I would say, is also due to the Russian Civil War, which was probably one of the most brutal and most bloody civil war in whole of history.
Instead about
the
every single civil
Americans
war.
participated in the Russian Civil War.
Yes, I mean many European and Western power sent soldiers
Yeah,
in the USSR.
British communists will fight. I've read stories about some of the British members of the British Communist Party went to go fight for the Bolsheviks.
Yeah,
I mean,
and also the government that
did they-
sent soldiers to destroy the revolution.
yeah,
No, totally. America tried to back the White Russians by sending troops over, and I think
Yeah.
what made us finally pull out is that the Red Russians had won. We had units out in the Siberian wasteland guarding weapon depots that the Whites had abandoned like a year or two ago,
Yeah,
and it finally got
I
to
mean-
the point where the Russians were coming back to claim what was basically their spoils of war.
the rest
and they
were
fucking
more
bitch slapped
organized.
us really fucking hard right out of their fucking country, which is probably
Yeah.
why Russia was allowed to become such a great superpower and challenge us in the 80s, because we didn't have a fucking hand in their upcoming.
Yeah, and yes, the USSR did became the second industrial power, the second economical power. It
I mean,
became very powerful.
That is, in fact, where the term first, second, and third world came from.
Yeah.
So, any other hills we want to die on?
Maybe I could say that one of the biggest disaster of the end of the 20th century was the fall of the USSR.
I don't entirely disagree with you, but I also don't necessarily entirely agree with you. I feel like it was definitely a double-edged sword. I mean, like, a lot of bad shit happened once the authority that was keeping a lot of the ethnic strife separated
I mean,
was gone.
Quite a lot, yeah.
But at the same
Mass
time,
murder being everyday problem.
but see, what came out of the fall of the USSR also isn't great. I mean, they essentially just changed from the communist state to the federation of, like leadership still has a lot of the resources centralized in their hands, and it's why they're leading.
And I mean, also one thing that I always say, speaking about how much post-USSR Russia was shit. After the fall of the USSR, many official documents got revealed about what Stalin did, about the gulags, about the execution, about everything that Stalin did. So the Russian knew what Stalin did. And at some point, I think it's around 1995, it was so much shit that even with all of that, a huge Stalinist movement became to rise more and more, because people thought that even being under a Stalinist regime was better than what they had now.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, life in Russia today is absolutely fucking horrible, and the fact that a lot of it is now in this just degrading, falling apart, commie blocks, their infrastructure is shit, and it's only getting worse. And the fact that their government, people seem to be so fucking jaded about it that they just don't care that their government's so goddamn corrupt. And
well, they don't really like people who criticize the government in Russia tend to turn up dead pretty quickly.
Yeah, and I think that's really the main issue why they're so apathetic, because they don't.
By all accounts, Putin is a dictator.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
He puts his friends in power of industry, and then he just kind of guarantees that they have to stay loyal to him because of
And
that.
also, if I remember correctly, the Communist Party is the second larger party in Russia. The first being, of course, the political party of Vladimir Putin.
I think that's called the Russian Family Party. Like, it has some stupid fucking name.
Yeah, something like I don't remember exactly. I mean, I remember it was a stupid name, but
So, I mean, the Germans have, like, something about, like, I think it's the Democratic Christians Alliance or something with Merkel. So,
and the third one I think is the far right party, pretty
Shocker.
much fascist.
I mean, being far right in Russia is at this point like there's you've already got one dictator in charge, so fucking
yeah.
Well, I'm guessing that's just kind of what happens when the Nazis come on in and, they thought they were going to win, so they were teaching everyone the quote-unquote correct political ideology.
Yeah, and the Communist Party is the second party of Russia.
I also came up
You know what I'm...
another hill to die on if you want to go to that.
Yeah.
So, my hill that I would also die on is that the church is probably one of the worst things that has happened to Christianity.
I'm sorry.
The what?
The church
the what?
is probably one of the worst things that has happened to Christianity.
Oh, the church.
You mean how bad the organized religion actually is?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I agree with
Yeah.
you on that. I mean, again, a lot of organizations kind of boil down to being mob rule gangs of protect our own and fuck everyone else. But that's just also kind of the nature of people.
Yeah, and how we have given priests and clerics the ability to basically interpret the Bible as they wish and spit back to the public whatever they believe instead of what was actually said.
One of the things that
Yeah.
Martin Luther complained about in his when he nailed all of his theses to the door was that the only people who could actually read the Bible were the priests because it was only in Latin.
Yeah.
And of course, he took the Bible and then he took it and was like, right, common people need to be able to read this. So I'm going to take the book, I'm going to take it from Latin into Greek, and then from Greek into German. And he publishes the Bible in German and goes, right, this is the Bible in German, so now all the common people can read it, and they can see how much bullshit the priests spew. You don't need to pay the church any money. You don't need to buy your way in heaven. They're just fucking talking shit. And it was, it's coming at a time when the church was already incredibly corrupt. I mean, the Crusades were not really anything to do with retaking the Holy Land. It was that the papacy had learned of all the treasures that were in Jerusalem. And then King James came over and was like, yeah, I want it in English. So then we got the King James. All the Bibles over in Britain are called the King James Bible because he was the one that translated it into English.
Well, goddamn, a based Auth right. Usually you guys just go like,
I know my. Hey, look, true Auth rights hate the fucking Catholics as well. That's why we used to persecute the Irish so much.
Based.
Based.
Oh, so we're
Okay,
on a watch
Well,
list
you
now.
did
That's
more
illegal.
than
Before
just
I-
persecute the Irish, but
before I get banned by Discord, fuck the Fenians.
No. See,
There
if
we
you want
go.
to get banned by the Discords, you start talking bad about furries. There's a weirdly large amount of furries that run Discord.
Yeah, that's.
And also fuck the Netherlands.
I
because
know.
my-
I know somebody a couple of years ago. Because funnily enough, because I was actually at that convention, I used to go to MCM Comic Con a lot in London, and somebody caught one of the Discord admins buying a furry Daikomoto there, one of those fucking body pillow things. It was like, oh my god.
Oh my
It's actually
fucking
kind of weird how
god.
many fairies are in positions of power.
I think it's weird that these furries have so much money. I mean, like I've legitimately thought of going into making fursuits because those things cost like $6,000 each.
I mean, it's usually their parents' money, so
Well, no, that's the other thing too. Is like
6,000?
okay, so my brother was in the Navy, and I remember him telling me about this guy. Like, he served on a sub or something, and one of the operators in the reactor room was a massive fucking furry. Like, they're in weird positions of power, like engineering, IT, shit like that. Like, it's like,
In NASA.
what is the like? I think it might just be
Oh no! It's a new Wookiee. New Wookiee sub. Yeah.
Woo. Notice your launch bay.
Oh no!
God damn. But like, still, it's weird. It's really weird that some of these people have power when, by all rights, they should be like a total social reject for dressing up as foxes and fucking each other.
It's the thing that worries me is that I'm a massive football fan, soccer if you must, but obviously one of the key things that happens in football, especially in the UK, is that we have football mascots. And football mascots are basically, at this point, what you could consider as like various anthropomorphic animals in the shirt of the football club.
It's the persona of the
And if anybody shows this to the furries, I'm going to have to fight to defend my fucking sport.
Oh man, I thought you were gonna end with I'm a really massive fan of feet, and I was really nervous there about it.
No, I don't like. No, but like I'm literally here with just like, if the furries ever find out about football mascots, we've got a massive fucking problem. Because they're going to be showing up to like fucking games and trying to hump the mascots, and we're gonna have to either get collector spray bottles or firearms.
Yeah, here in Greece, the two biggest football mascots are a lion and a tiger. And if you do look at them, I think one of the teams actually got an actual like fursuit instead of the mascot costume for one of the matches.
Whoops!
But
okay.
And some people noticed, but most of the boomers that watch football at this point, they didn't care. They just thought, "Oh, new design, whatever."
Oh no! Yeah,
they're infiltrating football.
It's like I follow both. There's a team that I actually support, which is Manchester United, and I follow my local team. And my local team, obviously Manchester United has a big fucking devil as a mascot, so cut that shit out. But my local team has a robin as a mascot, the bird. And I just watch it and I'm like, this is... I'm one, but I'm going to end up, some furry's going to fucking discover this shit and like they're going to post it all over the internet and they're just going to, oh no.
I mean,
all publicity
if we could piss them off, we would get lots of hate views and or people agreeing with us. Also, another thing I'd like to touch on about furries is
a lot of people are going to basically. Sorry, my Greek slipped out. Everybody's going to disagree with us, and everybody's going to agree with one of us at least.
Good. That means the podcast is working. I mean, this is a discussion with people who don't agree.
Right, I'm going to test their resolve then. Because one of the hills I will die on is that Zack Snyder's Man of Steel movie was actually really good, and everybody that criticizes it is wrong.
I haven't seen it, so I'm not gonna criticize it.
The thing is, I am a massive I'm a very disillusioned.
I don't really like DC or Marvel movies, so
I really like DC, but I'm a massively disillusioned at this point. I don't care since they're having another fucking rewrite of the entire universe, which fucking stupid.
Have you seen?
And yet they won't kick Ezra Miller out.
Have you seen any recent books?
I mean, I haven't watched any of the Marvel since Endgame. I really don't care anymore.
Oh god, Marvel is.
I think because my
foot with Endgame.
It's quite telling that my younger sister is 15, right? She really wanted the Marvel universe. I think I took her to see Multiverse of Madness. So I kind of just skipped through the whole thing. I thought the musical note fight sequence was cool, but the whole movie was just too long and a nothing burger. But she won't even watch any of the stuff they put on Disney Plus now because she watched Moon Knight and she just said it was terrible. And she's 15, and she knows it's shit by now.
So what are you guys' opinion on?
It was one of the better ones, to be honest.
Yeah. I've seen some people say it's decent, some people say it's really bad, some people just say... Because one guy I watched who reviewed the movie said the biggest problem is it almost feels like they're basically setting up the female character for her own series, and then Moon Knight just takes second place. Because that's happening a lot in like the Disney-owned franchises like Marvel and Star Wars.
Well,
All the male
I think
characters
at
are getting
least
shoved aside for the women.
I think at least we can all agree on one thing. It's fuck Disney.
Yeah,
totally,
Disney.
totally. Fuck
Yeah, they
Disney.
suck.
Okay, yeah.
They've ruined every single major franchise they've touched now.
It's
Because
time
they
to
keep
bust
hiring
monopoly.
They keep hiring people whose only idea is just, we need more diversity.
Well, see, that's the other thing too. Is the forced diversity is just another aspect of racism that nobody seems to really want to call out what it actually is. I mean, like just
And then
diversity hiring alone is pretty fucking racist. The fact that not only do you have to hire people of different colors because they're legally forcing you to, it really removes the whole merit aspect that I think that all hiring should be like done on. Like again, I don't care what color, creed,
It's
or
also
whatever you're
trampling
into.
over it's trampling over a lot of like culture that's prevalent in Europe. Like, but the whole thing with the Little Mermaid is it's a Danish fairy tale. It's a predominantly white cultural thing. But no, we can't
That's not
protect that culture
representative
at all.
enough.
And then you turn around and look at what's happening with the Lilo and Stitch live action movie, which I don't know why they're doing. That shit was perfect.
It's because
I
they're
really enjoyed that movie as a
straws
kid.
for ideas.
They've now casted basically a white girl as Nani, Lilo's older sister, who
I
was
think it's
traditionally in the animated version quite dark skinned, and they're just fucking frothing. And I was like, "Oh, you're erasing our culture." It's like, well, okay, now you're pissed off at erasing culture because
Oh, totally. Don't listen to them in the slightest. These are not serious people.
they're
They
fucking
will say
hypocrites.
whatever they have to get their way.
They are absolute fucking hypocrites.
And see,
They
it just
genuinely
bothers me
don't
because,
care.
like I've got a couple left-wing friends, and I think that they generally can defend their ideas and tell me why they think that. But if you try to discuss with these wokey people, they will either attack you, attack what you're saying, or just try to shut down the conversation or not respond. And it's
the old you're a bigot. I don't have to listen to you.
exactly. I mean,
They see everything that disagrees with them as bigotry or Nazism. They've literally diluted the word Nazi.
That's the problem. Like, I remember, like, in 2015, when Trump started running, and he was suddenly worse than Hitler after they essentially sucked his dick from the 90s till then, was what really made me go, he cannot possibly be this bad. I need to see for myself. And it really opened my eyes on a lot of the bias and bullshit in just media in general.
You have to support the current thing.
Yep, that's... See, like, even when the Ukraine war started, I'm always have been and always will be against it. It is a stupid fucking thing. We should not be sending aid. It is a brother war, and there's a lot of evidence on both sides to say that, oh, well, Russia started it. Well, NATO's been creeping closer and closer to Russia, and Russia's just kind of been sitting on their ass fighting each other. We kind of provoked them here.
I think the only thing I would have about it is that, as the words that put as Ukrainians, is that, like, if we just give up, we won't have a country. And I think that's the problem, is that the Russians they'll remove the Ukrainians. They already tried once with the Holodomor. And that realistically, I don't think we should be sending them as much help as we do, but I think a little bit of help. Like, the guy who's now going to, for some reason, leaking it all over Discord, and he leaks some of those leaks, to my understanding, is that it's not going as well as either side would want. It's a total stalemate. Because both sides at this point are relying on whoever's prepared to send them weapons and ammunition. And yeah, the Russians have lost twice as many, but they've also got like 3 times as many troops as the Ukrainians in Ukraine. So basically the whole thing is heading for a stalemate. And that the only thing keeping the Ukrainians in the war is all of the Western support they're getting. Because they don't really have the resources to last that much longer.
Yeah, and I always think that was a mistake from the Westerners, because we should be trying to go for a peace deal. We should not be going into war and basically playing footsie with World War III.
I think only...
support, adding guns, money, and all that, feeding this war, it just gives it more chances that it will blow up in something way more serious.
I think realistically the peace deal needs to be that Ukraine gets its land back, but Russia is going to have to keep the Crimea, and realistically they need to be able to take out all the people who are pro-Russian. The big thing that nobody seems to remember is that there's a huge pro-Russian contingent in Ukraine. They're not Russian agents, they're not Russian agitators. They were people when everything kicked off in 2014, when the president was rejecting calls for Ukraine to join the EU, is that there was a huge contingent in Donetsk and Luhansk. When the original president resigned over that, they basically started picking up arms and they declared themselves separatists. They weren't encouraged by Russia. They just simply said, we don't want to be part of the EU. We have deep Russian ties. So they either need to be allowed to govern themselves, or they basically need to be pushed into Russia. Or just given some level of space. Because the one thing I keep telling people is like, it's all very well to say, oh, you're going to end up, oh, it's very great, Ukraine will get all their land back. Yeah, but they're not gonna treat all the separatists with tea and coffee. They're gonna fucking genocide them.
This
Oh,
feels
totally.
like
I mean,
a redo of the Kosovo War. How
Yeah.
Kosovo was made.
Also, how much time do we have now, homie?
An hour and 10 minutes. So if you want to wrap it
Do you
up,
wanna-
we can wrap it up.
who should?
Yeah,
have
I
you-
think we should start to
Yeah.
wrap up.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any thoughts or feelings that anyone wants to talk about to wrap this up, or I guess what are you guys feeling?
No?
Well, usually we just do a little outro. So, if anyone want to do it,
Sure, I'll go for it. Thank you everybody for watching this episode of the PCM Podcast. We are finally back. Next episode we will also have a Lib left because today she had some internet issues. Besides that, leave a like, follow PCM on Reddit, and I am gonna be trying to get a Twitter up by the time this episode goes up, so you can also go and check that Twitter out. So
and don't forget to comment and subscribe.
yeah, and subscribe. So that's about it. Bye bye.